Hello and good morning. Happy Thursday and welcome to the midweek
Morning.
show, which is the hidden trap of overpricing your home in Fife's property market. Obviously, Richard's joining me. We're going to have a good chat about that today and look at it in detail. But before we do that, let's run the VT. Okay, there we
Good morning.
go.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join you this morning.
Good morning. So, we're going to talk about overpricing and obviously what that does to your property sale, the length of time that you're on the market. Of course, as well as we go through, we've got a graph to show you because we know we love a graph and to obviously really break it down and look at the finer details. So we will get to the graph.
Yeah,
But in an age of sensational headlines, the UK property market, particular in Fife, often finds itself misinterpreted. While we cannot ignore the challenges of course, the higher mortgage rates and the shift in buyers' preferences on the back of obviously the higher mortgage rate, it is vital to appreciate the broader context to understand what's happening in the Fife's property landscape.
yeah.
The UK
So,
housing market, yeah, go
um,
for it.
yeah, no, I just want to say about overpricing, and I think it's such a more common thing than people think. I see it all
Mhm.
the time when
Yeah.
obviously I continually review what's coming on the market and things in Fife. And for the most part, I could genuinely have a good idea of where price points are throughout Fife in certain areas. Obviously,
Mhm.
um, from doing this very well, that's what um, obviously that has part of, as part of my knowledge. I think, oh, that's about that price point, that's about that price point, without doing
Mhm.
a lot of back work
Yeah.
and comparables. Although that's what you do need to do to establish
Mhm.
accurate price pointing. But you could tell straight off sometimes, and there's certain areas where I see it happen a lot more often than others as well. So it's
Um,
definitely something for us to talk about this morning. So, sorry, you were going to talk about the UK housing market.
No, but on the back of that, though, I was speaking with a client and booking an evaluation,
Yeah,
and she was getting other agents out, but it was interesting because one of the ones she told me she was getting out, she was like, although I have heard that they overvalue everything just to get the listing, I have heard that they do that, and within this, we do speak about obviously that tactic.
yeah,
If you kind of know that before you've even got them through your door, then it's just not realistic. It's just not worth your time. Because then if they're willing to kind of tell you a song and dance just to get the listing, then what else are they willing to do as well? We need to be
yeah.
realistic and deal with the current market and what we can see by, as you say, the backwork and the comparables, speaking with the surveyors. But yeah, it was quite interesting for a client to tell me, oh, I've heard that they overprice everything just to get the listing. And I was just like,
Yeah.
no comment.
Well, not to discredit other agents and things, but it does happen, and there is particular agents that do it. But there's an interesting one recently. You actually sold this, Sophie, and I spoke to you about it, and we could speak off camera about what it actually is. But I noticed that I went to the one along the road, and
Uh-huh.
the valuation that I provided, he thought was lower than what he expected because he's been influenced by this one at the end of the road that wasn't on the
Yeah.
market yet, but they had been advised it was going to be a certain price point. And I said,
Hmm.
look, I don't think that's correct. And I stuck to my guns because I didn't think it was correct. Um, and we've kept in contact, and he's still kind of on the fence about what he's doing. The one in
Hmm.
question has actually come onto the market, far less than what they projected it would be, and subsequently it has come on with a certain agent that I know. Um, but it's still lower than
Hmm.
what they had obviously been advised initially by obviously the agent, because obviously the surveyors come in and put that correct. So I'm going to touch base with my client along the road and say, so this is what I told you, and it's turned out to be the right price point, which is where
Hmm.
I stuck to my guns because I knew that was where we were. Um, so it's quite interesting, to be honest.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And then at that point, you're literally dealing with facts.
Yeah.
You can't argue with facts then. It's there in black and white.
I think when pricing comes into it, as long as you are completely like thorough in your back work and your comparables and looking at the what's sold in the area and things, and you have the evidence to back up where you are in terms of price point and your valuation point, then you kind of eliminate, near enough eliminate that cause for question on the actual valuation. And then when you've got a reputable surveyor, obviously corroborating with you and backing up what you're saying with their facts and findings, because they of course obviously have a lot more in-depth ability to set pricing structure and things, and use a lot more like square footage and things as well, price per square footage, should I say. Then yes, then you've got a good recipe for correcting, setting the correct asking price and price point. But yeah, anyway, I'll let you continue.
Yes. So the UK housing market then is currently at a junction characterised by its lowest house price growth in 12 years and a rising number of homes for sale. Higher mortgage rates have made a sizable dent in market activity, affecting everything from buyer demand to the volume of property sales. Now, don't get me wrong, but it's not all doom and gloom. Five properties are still selling, and we love a statistic. So, put it into context: 6.2% more Fife homes sold per month in 2024 compared to 2023. So that's 6.2 more homes sold per month in 2024 compared to 2023, but not at the rate or level they were in 2021. And we've discussed in detail, Richard, on many shows why that obviously is.
Yeah.
But that just gives a little bit of context. But then it just shows you correctly pricing your Fife property for sale cannot be underestimated. And it's funny because me and Craig were actually having a conversation, and he was saying when there's sometimes maybe limited comparables, or if the client thinks, because they've maybe had another agent in their ear thinking it should be this, but everything's telling it's this, we just go straight to the surveyor and say, look, what is the absolute ceiling price? Give us that value. And it's saying to the clients, we're on your side here. We don't, there's no point us overvaluing it, because then it's only going to sit. We're not the bad ones. We're giving you the absolutely correct, realistic valuation. And it's just obviously altering that mindset that we just be realistic. It's just dealing with facts, but getting it priced correctly is not to be underestimated. Obviously, we're going to explain the reasons behind the current state of play nationally, and then finally the exact story of what is happening now and potentially in the future in Fife. So, Richard, what is the importance of correctly setting an asking price for your Fife home?
That's a really good question.
Good question.
Yeah, I think putting your Fife home on the open market and an asking price that's possibly too high can considerably deter potential buyers and really limit the number of people who ultimately come to view the property as well. So buyers always have their own budget in mind as such. And if your property is priced above comparable homes in the area, it's likely to be filtered out in their search and completely potentially ignored, to be honest. So even if your property gets some attention, the inflated price can maybe signal that you're not serious about selling, possibly, or unwilling to negotiate as another thing. And this could really result in your home languishing on the market for quite some time, which could necessitate maybe a further price reductions. We talk a lot about price realignments in the right situation, but if you've got an agent who's setting you a high price point or a high valuation at the beginning, and then you have maybe that initial interest, then nothing, and then they're continually coming to you with price reduction, then you're in trouble, because that's not the situation you want to be in. Because over time, buyers will begin to be suspicious that something must be wrong with your home or wrong with the property, irrespective of its high price. If it's sat on the market too long and it's not making much noise or movement, people will start to worry that there's something wrong with it, regardless of its price.
1,000%. It's the mindset, and regardless of how much we'll say, no, there's absolutely not. As much as we can educate in the home report showing that there's nothing wrong with the property, it's the automatic mindset. Everybody does it regardless of how much we try and educate. What's wrong? It's just
Yeah,
going to the negative. But you're absolutely right. It, like you mentioned, obviously, too high a price, and we need to be able to negotiate. We need to be realistically priced to get people through the door, to be able to negotiate, to then be able to push, obviously, their offer up. Absolutely.
yeah. So setting that realistic and market aligned asking price for your home is vital for attracting the broader pool of qualified buyers. That's an important
Yeah.
point, definitely. Um, and facilitating a quicker and more lucrative sale, as you say, getting that result at the end with a higher chance of actually being able, the people, the client and the person being able to actually move home.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think always also remember, I mean, looking at some independent analysis and things, just to kind of back up what we're saying here. Now, by 20 EA and Denton House research of around about 1.1 million houses or house sales in the whole of 2023, if the property sells, and that's sold to subject to conclusion of massive things, within the first 25 days of it going on the market, the chances of that sale agreed exchanging and then completing, so that's i.e. the person actually moving, is 94%. While if you take more than 100 days to achieve that sale, often because of the initial asking price, it has been set obviously too high, like we said, and all that time that's wasted, the chances of the sale subsequently exchanging and completing drops by 50%. Now, we've touched on this in a previous show, and I thought it was a really interesting statistic to back up that theory, because obviously you've got the wrong price point in the beginning, you're on the market too long, so even when you do achieve a sale, the likelihood of it actually transpiring and exchanging and the person moving is a lot lower than if you had the price point right in the first instance. You have all this interest in the first, as they say, 25 days, and securing a sale, you're up at nearly 94% likelihood that it'll all go through an exchange and the person will actually be able to move home. So then just think about that. You've went through, say, 100 days or so on the market, you finally find a sale, and then it all falls through and you have to start all over again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing worse.
It just shows the importance of having that price point right at the beginning. So what about the impact on more homes for sale then, Sophie?
Okay, so if we were to look at the UK property market, it looks promising nationally. This year, the number of properties sold subject to concluded missives was over 1 million to the end of October, which is 8% higher than the same sales figures to the end of October 2023, when it was just under. So there is
Under 1 million.
an 8% increase. However, actually, is this where we could actually pull up the graph? Because we haven't shown it yet. So should we
Yeah,
show the graph? Let's do that. So hopefully everybody can see it just there. And this will put it into context as well as we're speaking about it. But it just
do you want me to
shows you.
explain what's on this, or do you want to do that? You could do it.
What was that, sorry?
I'm saying, do you want me to explain what this actually shows, or do you want to do it?
Go for it.
Yeah, so this is the Fife property market. So in this graph, you can see the red line, and you've got the blue and yellow bars. So the yellow bars are new properties coming onto the market. Okay, now this spans across 2021, 22, 23, and then up to October last month, 2024. So the yellow bars are representing new properties coming to the market. The blue bars alongside that are properties that are selling, and that's versus the number of properties for sale, which is the red line on that graph. So you could see that obviously the trends in 2021, 2022, the properties coming. So you can see how the yellow bar spikes, and and you can see how it spikes for properties coming onto the market, and then subsequently the houses the number of houses for sale kind of follows that trend in the red line. But I know you've got some things to talk alongside this, so I was just to make sure people were clear with what that's actually representing.
Yeah, and it's also interesting, and something I've been speaking about on the weekly updates as well, is you can see the months of November and December each year, it drastically drops of like the new properties coming to market, and how we're trying to educate people that now is actually the time to go to market because you've got less competition, but there is still buyers out there. So if you haven't been watching the weekly updates, I do speak about this, but it's interesting to see over the years that you can see, and we are right in seeing less properties come to market. So it's actually a great time to go because there's less competition.
It also spikes back up in the January and on the other side of December, which of course you've got like the Boxing Day bounce, and then obviously that interest in increased interest in New Year time as well.
Yeah. But then obviously, however, if we were to look at the UK again as a whole, so there are just over 724,000 properties for sale in the UK, which is 9.4% higher than at the same time in October 2023, when it was a lower figure of just over 662,000. It must also be remembered that the figure in October 2022 was just over 500,000, and then drops again in October 2021 to just below the 500 at 438,000. So it shows you actually from 2021 up until our current October month that there is big increases. 2021 being, just shy of 450,000, jumping up to where we're now, kind of 750,000. So it does just show you that big increase. And there are 65.4% more homes for sale in the UK compared to 3 years ago. So today, 65.4% more homes for sale in the UK compared to 3 years ago. Which is interesting figures, because actually when you look at obviously the graph as well, it does show you that, but then actually seeing and actually the amounts as well, it's very interesting.
We'll come back to the market and the market graph in a second. So that is interesting. So then if you look at it, then just only half of all UK homes put on the market actually sell and then move. So let's look at since the 1st of January 2024, of the 1.2 odd million homes that left the UK estate agents' books, 654,000 in odds, which is like 53.5% exchanged and completed and exchanged, like contracts and things as well, meaning that homeowners moved and the estate agents actually got paid. This is the thing about transactions. People look at you need to think about transactions as opposed to when you're looking at figures like this, it needs to be the actual transactions that you're thinking about. So the remaining 568,000 is actually just shy of 569,000, which is 46.5% of that number were withdrawn from the market or unsold. So in essence, you have a flip of the coin chance of selling and the actual homeowners moving, if you look at it like that, which is quite, I mean, that's not how you would like to look at it. So to have your pricing structure in the right bracket and things to begin with, and being able to have that advantage from the get-go when you're going on the market is such an important thing. So let's focus in on Fife. I'll bring the graph back up because we could focus in on Fife. So focusing in on Fife. So as I say, this is 2021, 22, 23, and then up to October 24, which was just last month. So last week even. But anyway, in 2021, an average of 268 new Fife properties came onto the market, and 285 Fife homes sold, subject to conclusion to missives, and that's monthly. Okay. The average number of homes for sale in 2021 was 626. So do you see that? So you've got 268 that have come to the market. You've got 285 that have sold. So the average number of properties for sale was 628. So same kind of trend there as the UK as a whole. The next year in 2022, an average of 297 Fife homes come onto the market, and 265 homes were sold, subject to conclusion of missives, and that was each month. So the average number of homes for sale in 2022 was 715. So you see that again, a similar kind of figures. What about the years of 2023 and then obviously this year up to October, Sophie?
Yeah, so there was an average of 287 new Fife properties came onto the market.
Okay.
And then monthly, there was 264 homes sold subject to concluded missives. And the average number of homes for sale in the 2023 year was 849. So the numbers are kind of staying, around the 268, the 297, the 287, kind of going about there. But the homes for sale in each year is gradually going up. And then again,
that's the trend we can see there.
2024 year to date, there has been an average of 294 new Fife properties came onto the market, and then monthly 281 homes showing as sold. And then the average number of homes for sale in 2024 is 951. So again, an increase.
So the properties that have come to the market and the properties that are sold subject to conclusion of missives, I mean, they've changed slightly, but they show the same kind of trend and the same kind of figure. But then we see year on year, like 2021, the number of homes for sale, 626, then 715, then 849, and then obviously, like you say, year to date up to the end of last month, 951. So there's more and more and more stock available and properties on the market. So the volume of properties for sale in Fife has increased by 51.8% over the past 3 years. While this surge is available properties, this surge in available properties has significantly kind of impacted house prices. It's likely to mean the reason that Fife house price has grown, but has also still at the same time been kept in check.
Yeah.
So what about then? So if we've got more property, then
yeah. So you've got more Fife homes on the market.
Yeah.
Local buyers now have greater choices and can be more discerning. This often leads to balanced negotiations, and so can moderate rapid house price increases. Now, this dynamic ultimately benefits both buyers and sellers, balancing the market and providing fair value across transactions. This then, the costly trap of overvaluing and how it could affect your Fife property sale is absolutely crucial. Starting with a realistic asking price is the most sensible approach if you actually want to sell your property in Fife. Overpricing, or as it's called by some, overvaluing, where the asking price is set too high, may be tempting, but it often leads to challenges that can then delay your sale, obviously, as we touched on with the previous statistics. And I think it is an element of people, if you were to go in and overvalue it, they just hear that number, see that number, and think that number's then automatically going in their pocket before we've even gone into market. And it's a case of no, we need to be realistic. Might sound tempting, but we need to be realistic, because once that property is listed, it has a single chance to captivate buyers as a new instruction, putting in that excitement and also that immediate interest. If you miss that window with an overinflated price, your dream home could slip through your fingers while you're sat there waiting for the sale that might never come.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's like you've exceeded people's expectation and then set an unrealistic expectation as well. So it's like, and then you've sat there, and like you say, it might never come. And we've just demonstrated that with the figures there about what actually does finally sell, and actually the transactions that actually go through and people actually moving. So it's really important that you're at the right price point. I mean, here in Fife, we're seeing an increase in properties priced sometimes way above the actual market value. A trend that's often driven by estate agents who are focused more on the number of listings than on making the actual sale.
Yep.
You've got a lot of like what they call volume agents, and it's
Yep.
just list, and it's just to try and get as much on the
No.
market as they
Yeah.
can. Yeah, this approach can really harm many Fife homeowners, and initially setting their hopes high with kind of like these lofty prices, and
Mhm.
only then to later have to reduce after losing valuable time and reducing their chances of actually selling their home and then ultimately moving. This is what people are selling their homes for. They ultimately probably need to move 9 times out of 10. And we discussed that previously as well. And this can be quite disheartening for many homeowners looking to move, especially if it means missing out on another property that they've probably had their eye on. You'll
Yeah.
always find, when you'll find this a lot, Sophie, when you go out to see people, a lot of the time when you go to see people, they've already got other properties in mind.
Mhm.
I mean, not always, it's not always the case that that will transpire because of obviously timescales and things, but if they have then found a new property that they want to move into and they're in that position, then do you know what, that could be well delayed or missed because you've not got the right buyer because you're not priced appropriately. Um,
Correct.
and again, research from places like Which and things reveals that properties priced correctly from the outset ultimately sell faster and often achieve the actual better final price than those that start high. And a lot of people might think that's quite strange to think, but because
Mhm.
you've got that realistic price point, you've got the right people in the door, you've got the qualified people in the door, and then you've got negotiation, and if you've got the right negotiation skills within your team, then they could then push that price point up and get you a
Absolutely.
better result, and that's ultimately what you should be doing for your client, um, rather than going through all these reductions and price drops and things. So overpricing by as much as even just 10-20%, on your property's actual value can leave you lingering on the market, as we've obviously covered for quite a long time. And like I said, sometimes up to like 100 days and things. You see things sitting, losing
Yeah.
all that buyer attention early on, and often, and they're the ones that often result in this successful sales in the early stages when you get that when you're on the market initially, you're at the right price point, you've got that initial buzz, and the right buyers are there, and they're
Mhm.
looking in place at that time. That's usually when you capture a lot of successful sales. So I think looking at this, I mean, for further complicating the issue is that some estate agents then insensitize, incentivize their staff to
Mhm.
obviously prioritize listing property rather than selling them. Do you know that,
Yeah.
that's like the flip side? So what you should be doing as an agent is your main priority is to sell the property for your client, but
Mhm.
they've put incentives in place for their staff to really get the
Get more.
numbers, hit targets, and bring the property on for sale. And that's what their focus is, rather than actually selling it. Pushing the prices not in line with the market to obtain the listing, and
Mhm.
with the Fife market kind of stabilising, as we've spoke about, setting a realistic price point has become even more crucial in attracting serious buyers and really ensuring that you've got that timely sale that works with your timeline and not sitting
Mhm.
on the market for 100 and odd days without hardly any interest.
Yes. So then if we were to look at an outlook for the Fife property market,
Yeah,
while dramatic house price rises aren't anticipated in Fife's immediate future,
yeah,
there's also no significant drop expected either.
hmm,
Um, Obviously, we discussed that in previous articles and obviously previous blogs, which you can go back to. But demographic and economic shifts such as aging population, more flexible work arrangements, a strong labour market, sustained immigration could contribute to renewed market activity in the coming years. Additionally, you've got the base rates, which are expected to dip below the 3.5% by the end of 2025.
hmm,
Keep our fingers crossed, everybody, likely impacting buyer behaviour more noticeably next year. Um, so they
yeah,
are all contributing factors. But again, we've also not got a crystal ball, so we also can't
yeah.
we can't say for certain.
Yeah, I think the British property market faces some challenges and conditions,
Mhm.
and with effects of the budget still to be seen, and those fuller mortgage rates affecting affordability.
Yeah.
However, the trend of above inflation pay rises that we have seen in the country over the last 12 months could make home ownership more accessible for many people in the kind of medium to long term. So that trend, it could change, and hopefully we see that coming through.
Mhm.
However, combined with a potential drop in mortgage rates into 2025, wages
Mhm.
continuing to outstrip the inflation, and like you said, the demographic shifts and things, these changes could encourage an even healthier and more balanced property market over the next 12 months. So that could be quite a positive outlook for the market, not just here in Fife, but across the UK.
Mhm. Absolutely, and it's understanding these trends and understanding that it helps both Fife buyers and sellers. But like we said,
Yeah,
both both flips of the coin. It helps make more informed decisions, and that's what we always say in these shows when we speak about be informed, get your ducks in a row, and know everything that you possibly can. Though the market may seem under strain just now, Fife homeowners who set realistic asking prices will be in a strong position as the market looks to become more accessible, hopefully in the near future.
yeah, I think that in the near future, and like you say, if these kind of things do change and head in that direction in the next 12 months, it will be a lot more accessible and a lot easier and things
Mhm.
for people in the market across the country. Um, I think if you're here in Fife and you are considering to move, I mean,
Mhm.
reach out to us. I mean, we're happy to have a chat, look at the price point and valuation of your property. I know you do, Sophie, and myself obviously aim to get that best possible price for anyone's property. But
Mhm.
it's all tied in with that, do you know, that tailored advice for the individual and getting the greatest chance of a successful sale in the market at that time, you know, in
Absolutely.
today's market, or whether it's in a few months' time, in that market at the time, if things shift slightly, and it's having that
Mhm.
knowledge of the market in real time to be
Mhm.
able to help your clients as best you can. I'm sure you'll agree with that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think as well, don't be afraid if if you've got agents coming out and they're giving you a valuation. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask them where they got that value from. If if you think yourself, it's a bit higher than I expected, as we've mentioned, don't just be tempted and hear that high figure. Don't be afraid to ask, where did you get that figure from? Like what got you to that number? Don't be afraid to ask that question. And has your agent come prepared? Both you, I, Richard, Jim, Perry, Craig, we all do our back work. We
Yeah,
literally have in black and white why we've got to that figure. Has the agent that you've got sat in front of you come prepared, or have they just plucked a figure out of thin
yeah,
air, been in there 10 minutes, see you later? But don't
mhm,
be afraid to ask questions and ask, where did that figure come from? What evidence have we got, and how realistic is that? That's something I will say. Don't be afraid to do that, because that is your dedicated time. As you say, that's their dedicated time to discuss their specific journey, specific market at that time. So ask questions. Don't be afraid.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so hopefully, like obviously, all those statistics in the graph and things
Mhm.
is giving people a better insight into how the trends have went across the past few years and how important price point is.
Mhm.
I've got in the comments there, I think that's coming through YouTube. Is it Pyro, a first-time buyer, home buyer here? Well, hopefully that helped you slightly in looking at property on the market as a first-time buyer and understanding how price point is established and things as well. But yeah, if you're selling your home in Fife, please speak to us. We'd be happy to help. Or if you're thinking about selling and not sure where
Mhm.
your property is positioned in the current market in terms of its valuation, that is something that we would be happy to help with. And yeah, again, obviously, just it's good to go through the actual figures and statistics, not just for here in Fife, but how it reflects for the whole of the UK in the property market, and how we think and hope that things may actually change over the next 12 months, seeing if these things kind of transpire and make, like I say, the market a wee bit more accessible and ease
Mhm.
on the pressures that we've had over the last few years.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you obviously for coming on, Richard, and
Thank you.
discussing that in detail. It's been another good show. Obviously, if there's any comments, you can put them in even after the show. If you want to go
Yeah.
back and obviously read it, you'll see everything in this post just here. But thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Sophie, and thanks everyone for joining in, and I'll speak to you later.
Take care. Bye for now.